termasuk tema yang hangat diperbincangkan oleh halayak banyak nih teman-teman, terutama oleh Gen Z kayak kita nih.
Betul sekali Shanti. Topik yang hangat sedang menjadi perbincangan serius akhir-akhir ini, yakni tentang mental health yang sudah disampaikan oleh Kak Shanti. Nah, tema kita ini akan lebih spesifik dan sepertinya masih banyak yang belum tahu nih Shanti. Karena tema kita itu lebih spesifik tentang mental health microaggression.
Wow, baru judulnya aja udah serius banget nih kayak pembahasannya Kak Mario.
Betul, Shanti. Karena nantinya kita akan mendatangkan speaker yang sangat expert di bidangnya, yang akan mengajak teman-teman semua untuk berpikir mendalami perannya sebagai seorang manusia, dan tentu bagaimana cara kita bisa mengendalikan diri dalam masalah mental health. Dan yang paling penasarannya juga, karena kita di sini mengundang speaker yang luar biasa, dan daripada kita menebak-nebak terlalu lama, marilah kita sambut bersama. Inilah dia, Ibu Grace Tahir. Selamat menyaksikan.
Halo semuanya, selamat sore teman-teman. Wow, si banget sekarang ya. Wow. Okay, hi everybody. So I'm supposed to speak in English. I hope that's okay with you guys. Welcome to my talk, I guess. It's my first time at IPB. I'm actually excited because I saw yeah, it's so cool. So cool, man. Because I come from Jakarta, so when I visited here this time, it's like, wow, this place has a lot of green space and I love them. So jealous of you guys. But anyways, before I start, I have two questions for you. I can't really see you so clearly because of the lights, but I hope I can see enough of you guys here. Okay, so my first question is this. Let me get this right. All right. Who is a chindo in this room? Okay, there's no racist underlying tone here. I just really want to ask. Can you raise your hands if you're a chindo? Anyone? Wait, anybody raising their hands? Is it at the back? Wait, oh, it's over here. All right, we got some. Okay, oh, there's one right there. All right. Okay, all right. You can put your hands down. All right, my second question, right? What does Chindo stand for? Huh? You raised your hand just now, right? Yes, you. Can you tell me what Chindo means? Chinese Indonesian, you said? Mm, not quite, because if it's Chinese Indonesian, we call it Chindo, right? So it's not Chinese Indonesian, not quite. Anybody else want to take a guess? Anybody can take a guess, actually. Just raise your hand if you want to speak up. Anybody can answer this question, by the way. Do you want the gentleman in front? You want to answer? Apa? Cinta? Cinta? So why didn't you raise your hand just now? No. Anybody else? I can't really see anybody when the light is so strong. Wait, anybody raise their hands to answer this question? How about that one over there? That guy just now raised your hand, right? Was that a girl or a guy? I can't see. Sorry. Did you raise your hand? What is Chindo? Well, she said Chinese Indonesian. I said that's not necessarily right. The more proper one, what is it? China Indonesia? No. Really? Nobody knows what Chindo stands for? Yes, go ahead. Stand up. There you go. Give him a clap for him, guys. That's true. China Indonesia. All right. So, I don't know if you know this because you guys are so young, but okay, this is quite small, so I don't know if you can read this. So, since SBA, our former president, he actually changed the term from Jina to Tianghua. Why? Because actually the term Jina in Indonesia has an underlying tone of racism. Just like if you're in America, you can't say the N word because it has racial underlying tone that is negative. That's supposed to be a slur or derogatory term. But the funny thing is, just now I said, what is a chindo? We don't feel offended. I'm a chindo, by the way, and we don't feel offended when we hear this, even though the connotation of Tina actually is very racist. So just now you raised your hand, right? That girl over there, right? When people say you're chindo, you got no problem. Say, yeah, I'm chindo. I'm proud of it, maybe, right? But when people say you're Tina, you already know that sounds wrong. That sounds offensive. In fact, today in the social media and the internet, when netizens comment and they purposely want to hurt the ethnicity of Chinese, they would use the word Tina. It's supposed to be very, very negative, right? And yet, once again, we don't realize how bad or how racist the term is. And it's actually kind of funny, right? Because there's the term called Chindo. And I believe I might be wrong. I heard that this got famous last year because of the MasterChef Indonesia competition. If I'm not wrong, I don't know. So where does the word, sorry, where's this? Where does the word microaggression comes from? It's actually by the psychiatrist called Chester from America. He was African American and he used that term. Look at it. He says it's automatic, it's preconscious or unconscious, right? Things that we say unconsciously and it's automatic. It's actually used by the whites in America against blacks such as him. Microaggressions. And so today, this is my topic, microaggressions. And like I said just now, the word chindo is just an example, right? A lot of us today are exposed with microaggressions at school, among your colleagues at work, maybe even in religious organizations, right? Everywhere we go, we're exposed. We might have spoken them, we might have heard them, and we think that it's okay. That is normal. That's just a joke. That's not a problem. But in fact, if you actually kind of think about it and really dig deep, these are all forms of microaggressions. And I'll give you some examples. Now, I want you to be honest with me, okay, for the next slide. If you have heard this being said, or you yourself has said them yourself, can you raise your hand? I'm not going to judge, I'm going to put you on the spot, I promise. But I just want to see if you guys are familiar with these types of microaggressions. Here. Lu kampung banget deh. Atau ngomongin orang itu kampung banget sih, kampung. Have you heard of this term before? Yes. How about this one? Oh, wow, not bad for a girl. Or you're quite strong. Yes, right? Yeah. How about this one? Oh, maybe I don't know if you guys heard this before because I studied overseas, right? They keep on saying this, like, oh, your English is pretty good for Indonesian, or where did you graduate? IPB. Oh, you're pretty good. Your English is pretty good for a local graduate. Have you heard this before? Yes. And how about the last one? I don't want to fill in that blank, but like this. Jangan deket ya sama orang dari bukannya negara lain, tapi in Indonesia, different regions. Jangan deket ya sama orang dari, let's say, Sumatera atau dari Jawa atau dari whatever. Have you heard this before? Yes, right? So all these actually turns out they're all microaggressions. And how many times in our lives we have heard this being said and spoken loudly as a joke, in jest, unconsciously, very automatic, right? And we think there's nothing wrong with all of these things because that's just part of our culture, maybe. Or we think that, yeah, that's how it is. I've heard it so many times and I'm saying it now. What's the problem, right? Well, most microaggressions actually come from these two things. If you look at them, the first one is a joke because we're just careless, we're unaware. But I would say the bigger problem is that because it actually is because of our bias. A lot of people who are maybe educated and they're very open, they say, you know what, that's not me. I'm not biased. I'm open. I'm willing to learn about other people's cultures. I'm not racist. I'm not sexist. I'm not this and that. But actually, we have to admit that all of us here in this room, including myself, we have some bias one way or another. We have learned behaviors. I'm 47 years old. You guys are so much younger than me, right? So all these years we have been taught by our family, by our surroundings, by our uncles, grandparents, aunties, sisters, siblings, whatever. We learn, we see things. That's shaped who we become today. And of course, after that, we have assumptions. We have to admit that all of us here in this room, actually everyone in this world, we are all living in a bubble. Maybe your bubble is small, my bubble is bigger, but it's still a bubble. because you have not traveled all around the world. You have not met every single person in this whole world in different cultures, right? So how can you say that you are that open? You have no bias. Sorry, that's not true. We all have biases. We all have assumptions that we have made. And all of this cause us to utter or to underplay these microaggressions. Um, like for example, the racism that happened in America, right? The whites against the blacks. So people are thinking, why are they so racist against the blacks? But you have to understand, slavery has happened in America for so many years. It's ingrained into the white people that they're more superior than the blacks. So what happened to the white? The white first generation practices slavery, right? And at home, when they eat with their family, with their children, especially who are so young, they say, you know what? We are superior than the blacks. Blacks are evil. Blacks are, are dirty. We should stay away from them. And this get repeated. They grow up, they learn that, they trust their parents, right? So they stay that, they repeat the same thing to the next generation. It keeps on perpetuating generation after generation. So the young kid, the young little child who just listened to these parents or grandparents, they have no chance to break through from that thinking, from that assumption. I'm not saying I condone that, but I'm just saying look at the POV of that person. Every single that person exposed. Blacks are bad, blacks are bad, blacks are bad. How is he going to break through? He lives in a bubble. And how about us? Perhaps too, right? Maybe not so extreme, but perhaps we do have some biases here and there. This is my own experience here, guys. As a foreigner and as a woman, like I just said just now, I used to study in America and live there for many years. So I heard this many, many times. First, they say, "Oh, where do you come from?" I said, "Indonesia." So a lot of them back then, back in back pre-internet era, they don't even know where Indonesia is, right? So they said, "Oh, where's Indonesia?" It's like, "Wow, Indonesians can, go to America," or "Wow, for Indonesian you can speak English," right? So it's like some backward country for them. Indonesia is, right? So I heard that so many times. Your English is pretty good for an Indonesian, or there's a term called FOB, FOB. Anybody knows what that is? Anybody? Never? Okay, the term is actually fresh off boat. That is to describe people such as me, such as us, from Indonesia or from Malaysia or from, basically from Asia, who study in America, who moved to America, who legally migrated to America. Because in those days, people would come, to America through boats. So that's the word FOB. You're a FOB. That means you're not true Asian American. You're a FOB. So I heard that being spoken aloud, and it was actually very casual and very popularly used in my time. Maybe not so much now. So that me as a foreigner receiving all those terms, right? All those speakings, toward me. And as a woman, this is actually quite recent. This is 2019. So I was pursuing my doctorate degree here, a local university in Indonesia, but I don't want to name it. And we were all business doctorate degree candidates, right? And all of us have one similarity, which is we all are executives. That means we're all working, and this is just our, what's it called? Is this what's the term? Yeah, the degree that is for working people. So what happened was I was put in a group with two other men. By the way, they're all working people with high-ranking jobs. And this older man, who's older than me, every time I said something, he would just ignore me and just talk to the other guy every single time. So I was like, oh, what's going on here? So basically, all my inputs, all my comments as a group, completely ignored. So what happened to me when I was exposed to this thing as a foreign, as a woman? Here, I start to question myself. Oh yeah, maybe my English is not so great, huh? And what happened is I start to feel less confident. Before, like, yeah, my English is not bad. Yeah, I'm speaking English, right? And then they say, your English is fobbish. Like, oh, okay, maybe it's not so good. It makes me anxious every time I want to speak English. Like I'm questioning myself. I start to be anxious about it to the point I get traumatized, right? Thinking like maybe I should just be quiet and not speak up because they're gonna criticize my English, or I'm a woman. They're not gonna respect me. They're not gonna listen to me. So I get traumatized. I don't want to speak up anymore. But the worst thing, guys, the first four are about myself, right, inside of my head. But the worst part, I would say, is the last one, becoming biased. I myself becoming biased because I start to think, you know what? All guys are like these two guys, or all Americans are like these Americans that I encountered. But that's not true. That's my own assumption. That's my own learned behavior. That becomes my bias. And when I have my own bias, what happens? I might perform microaggressions toward those groups as well. You see the cycle, right? That's happening. But today, you know what? Like I said before, we might be exposed to a lot of microaggression in our lives through our surroundings. But I want you to try to break this cycle. When we know the cycle is going nowhere, is going downhill, be the person who stop, pull the brake, right? Not just going along with that cycle. How do you do it? Well, first, let's have an open mind. Let's try to understand that different people have different history, different backgrounds, different POV. I'm not saying that you have to follow them. Let's say, I interviewed a podcast on my podcast recently. I interviewed I'll just say his name. Yeah, his name is Gaga. He accidentally, or I don't know if it's accidental, but he killed his girlfriend, I guess, right? Maybe you know that story. So when I interviewed him, I was just curious what was in his mind before and now that he got out of prison. Like, what is he thinking? What was he thinking? And what's he thinking now that he's got out of prison, right? So I saw the comments on YouTube. They were like, "Oh, Grace, why did you give a platform to this guy? He's so bad. He's so evil. You know, you're encouraging him. You're supporting him. You're justifying him." Like, wait, no, I'm not justifying him. If you saw my interview, I was like really hard on toward him. But I just wanted to know his POV and what he was thinking at the time. It does not mean that I have to go along and agree with what he was doing. That's my point. When we said be open and empathetic, it does not mean that you have to follow that person. You just want to understand what that person is thinking and feeling. That's my point. So then don't get confused between the two. And the second one, I think it's harder, is to unlearn. Unlearn what we know so far. Learn that we have biases and to unlearn that. And imagine 40 years, my age, you 20 years, maybe younger. You have learned all of these things and now you have to unlearn them. It's so much harder. But that's what's needed to break this cycle. And eventually, of course, I hope that all of us will speak up. If you hear it, you think it's very offensive, or you think it's going to cause somebody, hurt feelings, speak up. That's our responsibility. Now, we live in a society today where everybody thinks, "Oh, you're so sensitive, right? Oh, why is so touchy, right?" Maybe people talk like that now. Let me just give an example. Actually, I would like to take someone from the audience as an example, if you don't mind. Anybody has a white top? Can you pull you up? Do you mind if you become my volunteer? Come on, come on, let's go. Yeah, let's give her. Do you mind? Yes, you with the white top. Come on. And I need another. Come on. Do you mind? Mau nggak? Atau yang baju putih yang kamu mau? Baju putih boleh nggak? Saya perlu satu orang pakai baju putih soalnya. Yeah, do you mind coming up with me to the stage? Come on. I only have 1 minute left, so please. I want to finish my presentation. Yeah. If you don't mind coming to the stage with me, because I want to give you an analogy here. Come on. That's a white top, right? Sorry, can you come up to the stage? Because I want people to see you. Come on up here. Thank you so much. Siapa namanya?
Nama aku Tika.
Tika. Hi, Tika. Nice to meet you.
Hai.
Come here. Saya tarik dia aja, biar cepat. All right, Tika. Okay, so I'm gonna just look at it. I'm just gonna wait. So this is the analogy, right? When I say something negative about her, like "lu jelek lu nggak bagus lu," it's so obvious. I'm so aggressive, and you call me out. "Gila Bu Grace, lu jahat banget lu mean, you cannot do that." It's so obvious. That macroaggression is obvious. People can call out. The analogy is like this. Look at her. She has a white top, right? So if somebody suddenly paint a black paint over her shirt, you would say like, "Oh my gosh, Tika, baju lu kotor lo. You have a smear on your top. You see it's dirty. It's so obvious, right?" Right here. But this is microaggression. Look at my top. It has white and blue, right? Actually, it's a nice shirt. It's a nice shirt. It's a checkered, right? Nobody complains about my shirt. You don't say it's dirty, right? You think, "Oh, where can I buy that shirt?" Maybe, right? This is microaggressions. It's so subtle. It's so like it's veiled in a joke. People think, "Oh, it's just joking. You're funny." It's sarcasm. You're smart. You see what I mean? It's a joke. You don't even know that you're being actively microaggressed in that sense. And for people, it looks like it's funny. It's intelligent. It's a joke. It's a sarcastic thing. but actually it's the same thing. Both are forms of aggressions. Thank you so much, Etika. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm just giving you an example. I'm just giving an example of those types of aggressions. Whatever you want to call it, they're both aggressions. And finally, let me just end this with this. If everything that we say, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what age, what gender, we all have the power of our speech. So I'm just going to end this with these three things. Okay? Be careful what you say, be careful what you write, be careful what you post. Be quiet when you're emotional. Be quiet when you feel like you want to criticize somebody. And be quiet when you don't have all the facts. Thank you so much, guys. God bless.
Oke, sekali lagi beri tepuk tangan yang meriah untuk speaker kita yang luar biasa. So wonderful.
The insight dan untuk menghargai speaker kita, untuk menghargai Ibu Tahir, akan ada penyerahan sertifikat dan plakat yang akan diserahkan oleh Chairman of TEDxIPB 2024 kepada Saudara Aska. Dipersilakan.
Baik. Pada sesi penyerahan apresiasi, bentuk apresiasi pertama dari Bapak yang diserahkan kepada speaker kita, Ibu Tahir. Oke, mengambil dokumentasi dalam hitungan 3, 2, 1. Sekali lagi, 3, 2, 1. Oke. Beranjak ke bentuk apresiasi selanjutnya, akan ada penyerahan sertifikat. Baik, panitia mengambil dokumentasi dalam hitungan 3, 2, 1. Sekali lagi, 3, 2, 1. Oke, luar biasa. Wow, give a round of applause for Tahir. Bisa cantik. Benar-benar penting banget mendengar semuanya. Dan benar, klimaksnya sampai ke speaker terakhir itu sangat luar biasa, Shanti.
Yang dari tadi nervous nih, dari tadi dari pagi MC, setelah mendengarkan disemangati dan diperbaiki mentalnya oleh speaker lain, aku jadi semangat lagi dan juga lebih percaya diri nih Kak Mario.
Tuh, sekali Shanti. Nah, sayangnya kita sudah pada speaker yang terakhir, Shanti. Karena setelah ini kita bakal ada sesi lagi. Nah, seperti di awal dan khususnya pada sesi pagi, aku dan Shanti sudah mengingatkan kalau misalnya kita akan ada sesi FGD atau Focus Group Discussion. Nah, nantinya teman-teman di sini sudah mendapatkan kursi ya. Nah, deretan kursi secara horizontal akan menjadi kelompok teman-teman saat melaksanakan FGD nantinya. Dan nanti tentunya teman-teman akan dibersamai LO yang sudah disiapkan oleh panitia yang bertugas.
Betul sekali. Untuk FGD-nya akan dijelaskan oleh LO masing-masing. Nah, untuk itu kepada para LO kelompok boleh menghampiri kelompoknya masing-masing secara kondusif dan diarahkan untuk menjadi kelompok FGD-nya.
Oke, terima kasih kepada teman-teman semua. Diharapkan untuk tetap mengikuti sesi dengan kondusif. Silakan untuk berpikir, teman-teman mencurahkan dirinya bagaimana apa yang sudah teman-teman dapatkan. Dan pesan dari kami adalah selamat berdiskusi dan bertukar pikiran.